Hey guys, happy Thursday. Today we're going to do compound complex sentences. So if you have not done the lessons on compound or complex sentences, you need to stop this video and go back to those. And if you have and you're on track, ready to go, I want you to turn to page 209 in your grammar book. Let's pray and we'll get started. Lord, we thank you for today. We thank you for the rain that you have sent our way. We thank you, Father God, for each one of our families you have put at Calvary, Lord. I just pray, Lord, that you'll keep everyone healthy and safe, that you'll watch over their families and their loved ones, Father God. Lord, I thank you for who you are, for your presence in our lives. Thank you, Lord, that you do hear our concerns and our prayers, Father God. I pray all this in your name. Amen. Okay, so you should be on page 209 in your grammar book. Let's get started. So today we're going to do what I've been doing all week with this. We're going to go over, I kind of summarize for you the rules that are on page 209, go over the two examples. I'm going to show you step by step how to do exercise A. You're going to complete exercise A and turn it into me, and then we can all call it a day and eat some chocolate. Okay, so compound complex sentences. So what you hear in the title is exactly what these sentences are. They are contained at least one compound sentence, which is, remember, two or more independent clauses joined by either a semicolon or a comma in a coordinating conjunction, and a dependent clause. And this dependent clause, if you remember from yesterday, is introduced by a relative pronoun. And remember, if you still don't know what those relative pronouns are, I definitely highly suggest go back and review page 148. And then since we have not done adverbs, go back and check the list on 174 as well. And both those pages together will tell you, give you the pronouns that all of these clauses are going to be starting with. And if you remember from yesterday, these are super easy to spot once you realize that they are introduced by these pronouns, because all you have to do is look for that pronoun and you've got the clause. Also, one thing you also need to remember is that dependent clause also has a subject and a verb. It's not a complete sentence, but it's because it's a clause, it has a subject and a verb. If it did not have a subject and a verb, it would be called a phrase, like a prepositional phrase. Okay? So for these compound complex sentences in your exercise today, you're looking for a compound, two or more independent clauses, and a dependent clause within one sentence. Okay, so these sentences are going to be long. It's going to be longer sentences, well, most of them are. Okay, so just remember step by step how I did it yesterday. I'm going to do the same thing today. So let's look at the example. Number 1 is the example in your book. If you look under number 3, but watch me on the board, because I'm going to take it apart for you step by step how I want you to do it on your exercises. So example says, before I attended Belmont Christian School, I attended Goshen Christian School, but I have also attended Calvary Christian School. I kind of shortened it for you. And so the first thing you're going to do is look for those dependent clauses. So my first one is right at the beginning of the sentence, before I attended Belmont Christian School. Remember, if it's an introductory clause, it'll end in a comma. And so that's where your clause ends. And so within that, I erased my comma. Boop. Okay, so now that we've marked that first clause, and then I'm going to underline my subject and my verb. So let's look at that one. What's my subject and my verb right there? So I is your subject, and then I attended. Very good. So now let's look at the rest of our sentence. I attended Goshen Christian School, but I've also attended Calvary Christian School. Do you see any more dependent clauses in that sentence? Any more relative pronouns? That's right, there aren't any more. So now we have a compound sentence to deal with, since again, these are compound complex sentences. So what is my subject and my verb of the first part of the compound? I attended. Very good. So in a line, I is my subject, attended as my verb. And then sorry guys, something's going on beyond the door. Okay, so what is the subject and my verb of my second independent clause? Okay, I is my subject, and what am I doing? I have attended. A little review also is not underlined because it's acting as an adverb. If you want to box it as a visual, you are welcome to do so. And then what is joining these two independent clauses? Remember a couple days ago when we were doing the compound exercises, I had you box either the semicolon, the comma, and the coordinating conjunction. So we have, notice right here, we have a comma and a coordinating conjunction. So I'm going to box that, just continue to help me as a visual, help me to see that. Okay, so here it is all labeled. We have one dependent clause, and then we have, notice your books have two independent clauses and one dependent clause. So we have one dependent clause, I'm just going to do it, flip it around, and then plus two independent clauses. Equals a compound complex sentence. And they're usually labeled like this. So compound complex sentence. So one dependent clause plus two independent clauses. Dependent clause, before I attended Belmont Christian School. Independent clause 1, I attended Goshen Christian School. Independent clause 2, I have also attended Calvary Christian School. Okay, so now let's look at number 2. The man who is on stage is my father, but the man who is standing on the steps is my brother. So let's find our two dependent clauses first. So what's the first one? Okay, right. Who is on stage? Who being my relative pronoun. Let me erase that line. And I'm going to bracket the who to stage. If there's not a comma and it's at the beginning of the sentence, you just go to the main verb. So it's my subject and verb of this clause, who is on stage. That's right, it's who. And then what is my verb? Is. Just as a review, what is on stage? It's a prep phrase. Very good, guys. Pat yourself on the back. Okay, now is there another dependent clause? The man who is on stage is my father, but the man who is standing on the steps is my brother. Okay, good. If you said who is standing on the steps, you are correct. Again, it starts with the same word who right there, the same relative pronoun. They kind of clue you into this is a dependent clause. So what's my subject and my verb with this one? Who is standing on the steps? So it's right. It's who, and then is standing. Now your book in the exercises has the subject, the S over the subject, and the V over the verb. Kind of as a visual. And if this helps you, you are more than welcome to do that. The more things that need to help you, the better it is. That's fine with me. Okay, so any more dependent clauses? Nope. Okay, let's go on to look for the independent clauses. So how many independent clauses should we have in this sentence? That's right, at least 2. So what's my first one? Sorry. That's my dog over there snoring. I'm sorry about that. Apparently my lesson is not as exciting as I was hoping it would be. Okay, so the man is my father. So what's my subject of that one? That's right, man. And then we're going to zoop. Is. Okay, what about my second independent clause? Yep, man. This one kind of laid it easy for you. Is. Very good. And then what is joining these two independent clauses? That's right, your comma and your but. Your comma and your coordinating conjunction. Okay, so for this one, we have 2 independent clauses. The man is my father. The man is my brother. So 2 independent clauses. And then we have 2 dependent clauses. Who knew you were going to do math today? At least it's math with words. Clauses equal compound complex. Okay, so just as a review, these compound complex sentences are going to have at least 2, if not more, independent clauses. So 2 plus independent clauses joined by a semicolon or a comma and a coordinating conjunction. And it's going to have at least 1, if not more, dependent clauses. These are introduced by your relative pronouns on pages 148 and 174. And remember the examples. In the first one, we had one dependent clause before I attended Belmont Christian School, and I had two independent clauses, so that makes it compound complex. Example number 2 had two independent clauses. Man is my father, the man is my brother, plus two dependent clauses. Who is on stage? Who is standing on the steps? So that's just a short review, short lesson over that. But let's look at the exercises. Sorry about that. I had to find something to cover the exercise with so y'all wouldn't get all the answers. So you should be on page 209 now. Let's go over exercise A. You're going to draw a box around each comma and coordinating conjunction or a semicolon that joins the independent clauses. You're going to underline your subject once and your verb twice. Notice it says every subject and every verb. So you make sure you follow those instructions. Every subject, every verb, within both independent clauses and dependent clauses. And you're going to bracket each dependent clause. So you're going to do exactly what I just went through on my board and what is right here in your book. So let's do number 1 together. So I'm going to show you number 1. Okay, the man who is wearing the hat is my uncle. He is my mother's brother. So first, let's do your dependent clause. What is the dependent clause in number 1? The man who is wearing the hat is my uncle. He is my mother's brother. That is right. It is who is wearing the hat. So you're going to put a bracket before who and after hat. And what is your subject and your verb in number 1? That's right. Who is your subject, is wearing is your verb. And is there any more dependent clauses in number 1? Any more of those clue words in number 1? That's right, there's not. So let's look at our, let's look for independent clauses now, because we got our dependent clause. Now we know we have to have at least how many independent clauses in number 1? That's right, at least 2. So what's my subject of my first one? Man is my subject, and what's the verb? Is. So the first independent clause would be the man is my uncle. Okay, what's the second independent clause? He is my mother's brother. Good. So what's your subject of that second one? Right, you said he, you're correct. And then what's the verb that goes with he? That's right, it's is. So you should have he underlined once and is underlined twice. And what did the book use to join those two independent clauses together? What should you put in a box? That's right, the semicolon. Very good, guys. So that's what your number 1 should look like if you got lost. Right there, that's what your number 1 should look like. So go by that example and complete exercise A. And I will see y'all later. Happy Friday Eve. Yay. 2 more days, guys. You can do this. Have a great day. Bye-bye.